what do you think is the hardest thing to do as a freshman coming in to college basketball? What do you think? Like, in college football, it's always with running backs. It's like, oh, can they pass protect? Or with offensive linemen, it's like the physicality. What do you think that is for like a freshman guard?
I mean, definitely the decision making. Under Roy Williams, we always talked about how hard it was for freshman guards,
I was
right?
going to
The
say
freshman point guard.
you can't say figuring out what Roy wants you to do. You can't say that anymore.
But it is a decision. I mean, everybody's quicker, taller. So it's much more challenging. But I also think the harder part is as well scouted as these high school games are right now, and the AAU games, it's obviously 10 times more in college. And once they figure out, hey, what's your weakness, whether it's that's offensively or defensively, then teams are going to try to attack it. So right now, Cadeau, he can hit the three, but he's not a 40, he's not shooting 40% from three. So all of a sudden, if teams aren't respecting him and they start going under, that can make it more challenging for him to show his specialty, which is really turning the corner in the pick and roll, as well as hitting guys. So I think it is decision making, but also getting adjusted to that speed and size of the college game, especially when you're going to have the ball in your hands and be responsible, for what's going on offensively and defensively.
Well, and I asked that because I think his decision making and his basketball IQ are, his greatest strengths. So
Yep.
you would think theoretically the move to college basketball would be a little bit easier for him, considering his greatest strength are the things that most people struggle with when they get to college. So if we're talking about a potential reclass, then I think uh, that would give more hope or more reason for him to go ahead and do it because of those skills.
So
Yeah.
let's see here, Sherrell. I think that's kind of the question everybody's looking at because again, with absence of movement during this dead period, and with UNC having so many gaps in scholarships on the roster right now, uh, let's just kind of reset where things are with not only Elliot Cadeau, but Ian Jackson's name came up again. Boogie Flan's name has popped back up. Ian Jackson's a potential reclass. So why don't you reset that for everybody as we sit here on April the 2nd?
Well, it came up because Fland and Jackson were both at a USA basketball event down in Houston. It's there every year with the Final Four, wherever that location is. So a bunch of guys who are really talented are invited down there for like a mini camp. So both of them were there, and then Cadeau obviously was at Geico Nationals. And obviously the question is with Jackson and Cadeau is, what are you going to do? And I think they've been fairly consistent. I was a little surprised that people took the most recent answers is kind of new information. But the answer from Cadeau, since the first time we talked to him, was, I think my preference would be to stay in 2024, but I kind of want to make a decision later, see how things look, feel things out. That was even before he committed to UNC. After UNC, it was pretty much, let's see what things look like in kind of spring, early summer, and reevaluate based on the roster and a few other considerations. So he's been pretty consistent with that. And then Jackson has pretty much said the same thing. I'm staying in 2024 as of right now. That's been his answer since August. And typically, for what we do and how we approach things, if someone mentions reclassing or says they're thinking about it, we kind of treat it as that's the most likely outcome. Um, maybe that's fair, maybe it's not, but that's kind of how we treat it. So we'll see over the next couple of months. Both of those guys have decisions to make, but they haven't changed in what they said over the last 5 or 6 months, even before their Carolina commitments.
All right, so everybody just kind of take that and consider it while you're thinking about who's going to do what in the next few months. Sean, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I think, when we're on the reclass subject, I think, and I see on the message board, I think we've talked about it you have somebody committed that's so far out, and we saw what happened with Gigi Jackson in terms of commit, reclassing up, and I think that is something everybody has to be wary of is you're always going to have other third party voices in people's ears saying, hey, you know, who cares if you're committed to Carolina? Go to school X now, and you're going to be a top 15 pick. and this is what you're going to make, and this is how much you're going to make it. And that's hard to hard to say no to, especially when you think and everybody around you is telling you that, hey, you're a top point guard or top shooting guard. Not to mention all these other coaches, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of voices, and it is nice to get guys in that you have committed. But once again, I think you still need to look at the situations. I'm much more in favor of Cadeau coming up, in terms of, I just think the passing ability is special. We saw how how bad UNC struggled in transition, how they struggled to generate really good looks. That's not all on the point guards. There are a lot of other factors at play, but I think Cadeau's passing vision is special. It's not like he is going to Link Academy next year, like James Brown. He's already done it, did that. He's been playing up. He's older, so pretty much everything checks the box. So that's why I would, definitely vote yes for that reclass. Jackson, yes, in terms of, does he get him in Chapel Hill versus another year of Rick Pitino trying to recruit him, or God knows what else. But at the same time, on the court would concern me in terms of, I think it could be a fairly inefficient season by him, just given some of his strengths and weaknesses. But that's all just one person's opinion on those two.
That's good insight, Sean. And again, this is what Sean just laid out are the reasons why I think a lot of fans are intrigued by the thought of Elliot Cadeau coming in early, and why people are kind of at least eyeballing the thought of Ian Jackson coming in, especially with with spaces on the roster.